Hello everyone, I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler and welcome to this second video in our series on Leela's opening repertoire, where we focus on the Sicilian. So after 1e4 c5, what is Leela's favourite Sicilian? Well, I guess if Leela could really force it, then probably the Sveshnikov. But yeah, there are many good ways for white to avoid that. So most engines end up preferring the Najdorf. And that's 2d6, d4, takes, or here a little move order from Leela, knight f6 first, knight c3, takes, and now a6. Now we saw quite a few interesting things happening. I mean, in the recent chess event bonus, where the top engines played in against lots of weaker engines from the starting position. We even saw Stockfish play bishop g5, which I've virtually never seen. We also saw the move bishop d3, which very unusual move in human play, but favoured by a lot of the engines to quite some depth. For example, Stockfish or Komodo Dragon. But Leela goes for, I think, the line that black players have always feared the most, and that's bishop e3. And well, the line that Leela gives follows mainline theory for quite a long time. So bishop e7, f3, bishop e6. Slightly surprised that at this depth that Leela wasn't thinking about the h7 to h5 plan, which I personally consider to be the best option. But it went for maybe a slightly more traditional, old-fashioned line. g4, b5, g5, knight h5, knight d5, takes. And yeah, these are very interesting positions. I mean, black's light squares are a disgrace here, of course. White's got ideas even like knight a5 to c6, and obviously if we could get rid of this bishop, maybe with bishop h3 to g4, then we could career through on the king side. But there's also a lot of weak dark squares, and well, Leela goes for f6, bishop takes f6, knight a5, queen e8, and we're following a game of Maxime Vachier-Lagrave here, and that game Paravian against Vachier-Lagrave in Krasnaya Polyana 2021 carried on queen b4, and I do believe that in this chess event bonus at the TCEC that we saw a game possibly with Leela as white against one of the engines, not one of the main ones, but I think a draw was held, maybe Chiron. But at this depth, Leela prefers king b1 rather than queen b4. Bishop d8, knight b7, bishop e7. That's a novelty. There was a very high-class correspondence game that carried on bishop c7, queen c3, queen b8, queen c6, rook takes f3. Really very, very risky play. I mean, normally, you know, white attacks on the king side in a Najdorf and black attacks on the queen side, but here everything's getting mixed up really. That was a correspondence game that ended in a draw. Leela's novelty is bishop e7, and after bishop h3, rook takes f3, bishop e6 check, takes, knight f6. Yeah, I mean, Leela considered the position to be 0.14 for white, so just a slight advantage, nothing enormous. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think I'd much rather be white in this position. I don't really feel that black's getting a lot of counterplay. You've got a pawn, but white's got plenty of play, really. So, yeah, I'd quite fancy this as white, really. But that's Leela's main line in the Najdorf. The intriguing thing is that I thought, well, let's let Leela have a go at the dragon. What will Leela do then? And funnily enough, well, I mean, again, at lower depths, Leela's just going for the pretty traditional approach, which is bishop e3, bishop g7, f3, castles, queen d2, knight c6, castles. And this is a very popular line amongst the engines. We go d5, knight takes c6, and bishop d4, takes, queen b6, knight a4, queen c7. And yeah, I mean, white's got a slight advantage here. I mean, you've swapped off the dark squared bishop, which is reducing the danger against your king, and black's got a weak pawn on c6. You've got a little square on c5. Maybe the knight on d5 isn't totally stable. We might be able to drive it away with c4 at some stage, although that is a bit risky. But yeah, it's not amazing. I mean, bishop c4, knight b6, bishop b3, takes was Leela's line, and well, I mean, to be honest, I'd expect you know, that this would really end up a draw, even in a, you know, a human elite game, really. But actually, after thinking for a lot longer, 129 million nodes, Leela's main line is quite surprising. It's f3. I mean, black could just play bishop g7, but then it goes straight for the Dragodorf. So, and the Dragodorf is a mixture of the Najdorf and dragon. So a6 now, bishop e3, h5. And after queen d2, you might just recognize this, because Leela wants to play e5, knight b3, bishop e6. And we're really back into a bishop e3 Najdorf, where black's played these slightly odd moves, h5 and g6. But actually, to be honest, I've played a very similar position after... here, I think I'm even transposing into one of my own games here. So, and this is, you know, this is also pretty good. So quite intriguing, really, that that Leela's just looking to to transpose back into a Najdorf, even if you give it the dragon. What other ideas have we got? Well, of course, instead of 2d6, then knight c6 is a main line. And of course, if we force Leela to play d4, then it goes straight into the Sveshnikov, knight db5, d6. And quite interestingly, again, Leela's favourite idea is knight d5, which was also AlphaZero's favourite idea. I remember when Natasha Regan and I were watching the Fabiano Caruana Carlsen match together with AlphaZero, then yeah, knight d5 was very much its favourite move there. Takes, knight b8, a4, knight d7, bishop e2, bishop e7, castles, and then b4 is Leela's favourite move. And yeah, one slightly amazing thing is that after a6, knight a3, b6, knight c4, a5. Yeah, Leela's favourite move here is the move b5, which would be completely shocking if you hadn't seen other Leela games. There's a link in the PGN to a video where we look at a similar Leela idea, not opening up the queen side, just blocking it up and relying on the resulting weaknesses. And yeah, very interesting idea there from Leela. And f5, f4, queen c7, rook a3. The rook can come over to attack the central pawns. The rook's coming to e3. The bishop to a3. Not easy for black. 0.12 for white at the end, but looked like a very interesting idea to me. But yeah, I mean, Leela's favourite idea there against the open Sicilian knight c6 is to go for the Sveshnikov. Which is why, just like most other engines, Leela doesn't want to play an open Sicilian against 2 knight c6. It wants to play bishop b5. And the Rossolimo, really a very big test of 2 knight c6. And after e6, castles, knight e7. I think this is pretty similar to the line that Stockfish wanted. Rook e1, knight g6, c3. Bishop e7, d4, takes, d5, takes. I've been playing this a lot in blitz games and doing perfectly fine as black. I don't think it's very much at all. Bishop g5, castles, bishop e7, knight g7. That's a Leela novelty. Knight c takes e7, which is kind of more natural. Was played in a game Novikov None, 2012. And after h3, a6, takes, knight c3, queen d6. White's got a slight advantage here. I mean, there's this isolated pawn, light squared bishop, so yeah, white's always going to be a little bit better. Got outposts on nice outposts on c5 and e5 for the knights, but black in general is fine, and certainly at the engine level this is nothing spectacular. I think probably at the human level this could be a little bit irritating. The other idea that black has got, of course, is not to play 2d6, but to play 2e6. And this is actually also a possibility for transposing back into the Sveshnikov. So after d4, takes, knight c6, knight c3, black can play knight f6. And if you go knight db5, d6, bishop f4, e5, bishop g5, we are back into a Sveshnikov, but having avoided this 7 knight d5 line. So that's quite always a very sneaky way of transposing. However, the big difference, and it's a line that I've always liked very much for white, even though, yeah, we know with big analysis, black's obviously holding, is to take on c6 and go e5, knight d5, knight e4, queen c7, f4. We've actually had a few of these in the chess event, this TCEC bonus with from the starting position, where Stockfish, Komodo, and Leela take on the rest of the engines, and this has scored really well for white. So I think yeah, it's a very complicated position. I don't think that the lesser engines are able to solve the black problems just like that, basically. But this is the main line: f4, queen b6, c4, bishop b4 check. The king goes for a bit of walkies, f5. There's a few moves here. Knight f2 is quite interesting, but Leela's move is to play this: takes, bishop b7, rook d1, rook c8, g4, c5, rook g1. We're still full in main theory here. Queen c7, g5, knight e4, queen e5, and well, this is a pretty high-class game here. d6 was Volokitin against Ilyanov, which was a rather risky pawn sacrifice there. Queen d8, king d8, but threatening rook e8. Quite nice. But Leela's move is to go king f7 here. And after bishop h3, bishop c6, rook f1, a5. Well, Leela ends up a very long line with a 0.18 advantage. To me, to be honest, it looks really scary for black. But I guess it's one of those things that if you're booked enough, then you'll survive it. But yeah, I don't know. Wouldn't really recommend this to a student or anything like that. As play this line and you'll be fine. It feels very risky. What else do we have? Well, after knight c3, we've got queen c7, which is the Paulson, and that's actually Leela's favourite 2e6 system. It doesn't like knight f6 as much as queen c7. And now bishop e3, a6, queen a3 is Leela's idea. We saw that Stockfish liked g4 very much, and indeed in the World Engine Championship we saw a number of engines, probably using a Stockfish book, that played g4. We had a game, I think, between, I think it was Ginkgo and Komodo Dragon, where they followed Stockfish's analysis till very deep. Ended up being okay for black, but wasn't particularly comfortable. Queen f3 is Leela's preference. That's again, recent trendy move, but also quite strong. One of the ideas, bizarrely enough, is just to go queen g3, swap off the queens, and then claim that the ending is better. So b5 takes, bishop d3, h5. That's Leela's move, a novelty. Knight f6 was played in a game Gonzalez Vidal against Sveshnikov 2015, and yeah, I'm not quite sure how this was. Takes, b4, e takes f6, b takes c3, bishop d4, takes rook b1. Feels like white's got some sort of initiative here. We're going to take on b2, have to waste a move dealing with this, and there's some open lines and all that. Again, maybe for an engine not too scary, but yeah, humans could get worried with that, I think. But h5 is Leela's move, just yeah, teeing up maybe a later knight f6 to g4. So a4, b4, knight b1, knight f6, knight d2, bishop b7, h3, and just a solid sort of position. Leela gives itself 0.24 here. I guess likes the c4 square for the knight, and maybe some pressure on the dark squares here later, maybe with bishop f4 as well. Not too fantastic, but quite interesting as well, and yeah, all quite fresh. So yeah, if you want to try it, give it a go. The other thing, of course, we have to mention, this is the TCEC, is the Sicilian can. After our very esteemed organiser, Canchess, who's always doing so much for the TCEC. So after knight c3, a6, we get into Leela's main line here. Queen c7, bishop d3, knight f6, and then a very unusual idea, bishop d6 here. d6 has often been played, but then white goes g4 and starts throwing stuff forward. But bishop d6 is quite nice. Bishop e3, and then b5. A novelty over Afeskulov against Arishenko. And after castles, bishop b7, king b1, castles, g4, bishop f4. It's a typical Sicilian mess, really. So it's quite nice, Leela's line. d5, e5, one of those pawn sacrifices. Just trying to give to keep the centre close and then throw forward the kingside pawns. Knight e4 takes, rook g4. Queen c7 takes, rook e4, knight d7, a3. A little bit of an advantage for white. I mean, the kingside's pressure a little bit annoying. You might even get some rook h4s and then queen somewheres. So it'll probably gain you a tempo here and there. Of course, Leela manages to exchange it off to a draw, but again, pretty interesting stuff for white and for black there. Is there anything else that I want to show you in the Sicilian? I don't think so. I think, yeah, the Najdorf is really Leela's favourite idea. And yeah, some interesting lines in there. And yeah, some, again, Sveshnikov, Leela likes that very much indeed. Likes AlphaZero's main line once again. But obviously it's very hard for black to get a Sveshnikov. And knight c6, bishop b5. And this line, e6, d4, takes, knight c3, knight f6, knight c6. It's pretty common now. None of the engines allow the Sveshnikov. They all go into these slight sidelines, you could say. But these look pretty promising for white. So there we are. That was the Sicilian. Stay tuned for more openings from Leela.